G'day trendsetters, I'm John with the Gravel Cyclist. Behind me is the Lady Gravel Cyclist, and it's time for part 2 of the hashtag starting from scratch project. If you missed part 1, I highly recommend you check it out because it's linked in the description below. Today we're hanging out with the Lady Gravel Cyclist herself, who has been diligently riding the trainer, learning some of the basic concepts of cycling. One of the most important concepts of cycling to learn is sitting your ass on the saddle for ages and hopefully it not causing you any discomfort. And I think she's been doing okay in that regard. Before we continue, we received some feedback from the first video of the hashtag starting from scratch project, namely, why the f isn't she riding outside? So I'm not going to answer that question. Let's turn it over to LGC herself.
So my main reason for using the trainer is to work on my technique and especially cadence, gain some power, and I think most importantly, learning how to shift gears properly and not destroy the drivetrain of this bicycle. I don't really want to focus on anything other than gear shifting at the moment. The concept was a little bit tricky for me to grasp, so I feel it was important for me to feel comfortable with shifting gears. There'll be plenty of time to learn the other techniques, such as getting out of the clipless pedals and turning corners and using brakes properly and all kinds of other madness.
Thank you, LGC. Moving on, in part 2, the lady here is going to be talking about gearing, particularly her experience with using a 2x or double chainring setup. But before we continue, I need to give a huge thank you to these companies who are participating in this project and have supplied product, namely SRAM, Zipp, and Shimano. Thank you very much. Shortly, I'll be working with my friends from Brickyard Bike Company of Phoenix City, Alabama, just across the Chattahoochee River from Columbus, Georgia, where we'll be assembling LGC's bike, covering the build in detail, and also showing you the frame. I have a frame lined up, but I'm not going to reveal it just yet. Enough of my bollocks, it's over to LGC.
Before I like to tackle any of the courses with climbing, I like to use this flat course as a warm-up. I only have to worry about shifting between 1 to 2 of the higher gears to keep going on this course. Right now I'm riding the Dirty River course, which is a simulation of the one in the UK. I realize that the trainer is not the same as riding the real roads. However, I feel that it does make me stronger and it does help me learn the techniques of proper gearing, especially with a course like this with flat areas and hills. As you can see from the screen, I'm currently on a flat area. The blue indicates a downhill sequence in which I'm going to use a higher gear. So I'm going to use the downhill segment to create some momentum because, as you can see from the yellow and the red, we have an uphill sequence coming. I want to prepare for that ahead of time. I learned that you don't want to wait till the last minute when you're actually on the hill to try and switch to a lower gear, because then you get too bogged down. Feel the resistance starting in the trainer, the hills coming up. So I'm going to switch to a lower gear. I'm currently changing gears on the rear derailleur to make it an easier gear. When my cadence gets slower, I'm going to shift to the smaller chainring, which is now.
LGC is trying to maintain her cadence. She doesn't want to get bogged down. She mentioned it earlier, before when she first started riding these virtual hills, and that's reflected on the trainer, the resistance. She would get to the hill and she was in the big gear that she was riding on flat roads. She got bogged down and tried to do a bunch of gear changes at once, which was hard on the equipment. Cadence is personal. Some people like to push bigger gears on climbs and flat roads and what have you. So whatever works for myself, or LGC in this case, may not work for you. And that might include standing, which we're going to cover later on in the real world. Right now, riding the trainer, she's sitting. You can stand on a trainer, but I prefer to stay sitting myself. LGC is lost for words. She's working hard right now.
Out of breath.
What are you doing?
So since I'm no longer climbing, I don't need to be in the lowest gear with the smaller chainring. So I switched back to the higher chainring, generate more power going down this hill. One more thing to also keep in mind is when you are shifting gears, you want to make sure that you're pedaling. Not like a full force pedal. You can let up a tiny bit when you actually shift the gear. It's really important when switching to a smaller chainring to keep the drivetrain rolling whenever you're shifting gears. One other thing I'd like to mention is cross-chaining, and it's definitely one thing that you want to avoid.
Thank you, LGC. In part 3, I expect we'll be taking the bike outside because very soon I'm expecting delivery of pedals, shoes from Shimano. It's time to get LGC onto some clipless pedals. Thank you for watching. If you haven't already, please consider subscribing to the Gravel Cyclist YouTube channel for informative, I think, videos such as this, ride experience videos, no bullshit, gravel bike reviews, product reviews, and other madness, as all of it is released to the channel. I'll see you and you in the next video.